Hi there, my name is Juji. Welcome to my channel. This is a space for anyone and everyone who's interested in exploring personal development and relationships through the human design system. Guys, I've been away for far too long. I've missed you all so much. I've been a bit under the weather, as you can probably still hear from my voice, but I didn't want to leave you hanging, and I wanted to give you the tea on Harry and Meghan, which is one of the requests that I recently got. But before we get into all of that, I wanted to clarify something. I recently got a DM from one of you wanting to do a relationship reading, but you were afraid I was going to tell you that you and your partner are not well matched. And I just want to let you all know that while I do these analysis for famous people, when it comes to doing a partnership reading, it's not about whether or not you should or should not be together. That is not an opinion for me to have. In fact, human design is not really about my opinion. The composite chart shows us who you are together, and it gives you a really great way of seeing how to interact with your partner so that you can have an easeful, harmonious, conscious relationship. That's all. And speaking of conscious couples, we're going to be talking about a celebrity couple who was requested, actually. And I had hesitated to do a piece on them only because there are so many opinions about these two. So I wanted to try to figure out what angle I wanted to take on doing a couples analysis for you guys. And what I really thought about is that this is an unlikely pairing, right? Meghan Markle was like one of the suitcase girls on A Price is Right, and then she was on a reasonably watched show called Blue Collar, but she wasn't like a movie star by any stretch of the imagination. She's never really been considered an A-list actor. In fact, I'm venturing to guess that most people didn't know who she was until she started dating Prince Harry, of course. And this is a guy who had been seen with a lot of different socialites. There was one woman in particular, I don't even remember her name. She was blonde with blue eyes. They were on again, off again for many years. And all of a sudden, here's this whirlwind of a relationship between Harry and Meghan. And a lot of people felt like it was a great, direction. He was never going to be king. That was kind of a done deal. And so basically, the fact that he chose this woman who is not of nobility, who is mixed race, who is the unexpected choice, let's just say, was really sort of refreshing for people. But then, of course, the press started to spin it in a negative directions, as they tend to do. And they started talking about how Meghan was this social climber and she was controlling him, and, he's losing his status in the royal family, and then Megxit, and all of those things started to happen. And people just didn't really get it, right? Like, what was the big deal about this seemingly pretty average woman? I mean, she is beautiful. I will give her that. She's very poised. She's very elegant. She's well dressed. She has a beautiful smile. She checks all the boxes in terms of attractiveness, but, for a royal, it seems that it needs to be a lot more than that. And I feel like we've all been there at least once in our lives when we were dating somebody whose parents didn't necessarily approve of us. I know personally, I dated this guy whose family was very Orthodox Jewish, and I just wasn't Jewish enough for them. So, eventually it became too much pressure in our relationship, and we ended up breaking up as a result. But not Meghan and Harry, no tabloid, no royal consort, no bad PR was breaking these two up. So let's take a look underneath and see what was drawing these two together. All right, so this is Prince Harry. He is a 6'2" split definition emotional manifesting generator on the left angle cross of informing. Now, I want to point out that he's a 6'2", which means that for the first 30 years of his life, it was all about this trial and error process. So all of these on again, off again relationships that we saw him having was just a part of his third line process. And potentially now that he's on the roof, he was more available for a long-term, serious, committed relationship. Not to mention, as a sixth line, he's not really here to do it the traditional way. Six lines are trailblazers. We are, I say we because I'm also a 6'2". But yeah, as trailblazers, we're here to do it our own way. And he seemed to have, of all the royals, the hardest time. I mean, Prince Charles as well, who is also a 6'2", had a really hard time adhering to these old standards. And so no wonder he chose somebody who was so out of the box for what was expected of him. Here is Meghan. She is a 5'1" split definition sacral generator on the left angle cross of refinement. So yeah, she does have this refinement built into her. She is very much about the finer things in life. She's a fifth line, so of course we're going to project onto her. Whether that's positive or negative is just up to the eye of the beholder. So, you know, she's used to that kind of heat, I guess, and she's built tough enough for it so that anytime they're written about in the press, he might get, you know, more upset about it than she would. And as an open emotional person, she's probably pretty good at avoiding the truth about what people are writing about her. She doesn't necessarily have to read those papers, or she avoids them altogether so that she doesn't have to be confronted with what people are saying. And this is the two of them together. So remember, both of them are split definition, and their composite chart is single definition, which means they bridge each other's splits. They have 5 electromagnetic channels. And yes, the number of electromagnetic channels is significant, but also where the connection happens is pretty significant. So I just want to point out that there are 3 electromagnetic channels to the spleen. And the spleen is our immune system. It is our safety. And together, these two people feel safe to one another. I believe that the most significant of their connections is the 50-27. This is the channel of preservation. It is also known as the channel of caring. And together they are caring for each other. They are caring for their now offspring. They are caring for their well-being. And we see a lot of that as selfish, right? Because according to tradition, according to the royal mandate, you know, your needs are here to be secondary. That's what neither Diana nor it seems Harry can really deny, is that they are not willing to allow for their well-being to be bottom of the priority list. No, they are going to absolutely make sure that they care for themselves first. And if that means leaving England, then so be it. If that means cutting themselves off from the royal family, so be it. This is a very insulated relationship. They are 9-0, nowhere to go. All 9 centers are defined. All the splits are bridged. They have everything they need in this relationship. They don't need anybody else. They don't need the family, or they don't need the approval of the family. They have everything they need between the two of them. They even have a companionship channel, which is the channel of the beat, the 214 right here. And this is all about having an individual direction. The fact that both of them have this individual chemistry is a recognition in one another. That's what companion channels are. It's like, this is where we're the same. This is where we see things very similarly. And I believe that their material direction, cutting a deal with Disney, cutting a deal with a podcast app, all of this stuff, like they're taking care of themselves. I mean, they're taking care of themselves financially. They still have a place in the public eye. Whether or not it's a positive place is sort of beyond the point, actually. And the two of them together are going to be just fine. They know that they don't actually need the approval of the royal family. And together they have intellectual stimulation, they have creative stimulation, they have this security built in. What else could they possibly need, honestly? So a lot of the time, Meghan is accused of being a manipulator, being somebody who is calling the shots, because of course, Harry couldn't possibly have made the decision on his own that he would want to leave. But here's the thing, Harry is actually the authority in this relationship. And I'm not saying that because he's the man. I'm saying that because he's the one who's emotionally defined. And not only is he emotionally defined, but he has this channel of moodiness. It's called the channel of openness, the 1222. And really, it's about his mood and what he wants to do and what he's willing to participate in. And he has to be a willing participate in his fate. It's his timing, first of all, in the relationship. She's the one that has to wait for him. And as this authority in the relationship, it's all about what he's in the mood to do, what he feels is correct for him. She has sacral authority, which is all about a moment to moment, breath by breath expression, but his is a much longer process than hers. So she has to wait for him. And potentially one of the reasons why they are so good together is because she's patient enough to wait. That's the thing. It's when emotionally defined people feel rushed. It's when they feel pushed into decisions that they start to resist that decision. But if she was smart, which it seems like she is, she would give him the time and space, and that would feel so good to him that he would say, like, oh, you're giving me my space, you're giving me time for my wave, you're giving me this opportunity to feel into something. Oh, well, that in and of itself feels good. So because she is patient, because she's willing to wait out this emotional process, she becomes the obvious choice to him. She becomes the person he cannot live without. Of course, among all of these other connections that they have, this splenic, feel good, that they bring to one another. And actually, he has splenic definition without her. So she's the one that feels good in his aura with his defined spleen, plus then the connections they form together. So as rebellious as it seems for Harry to make this very unusual choice, I can see exactly why they ended up together and why, in fact, they're going to be together for the long haul, even if they come up against adversity after adversity after adversity, because, the chemistry doesn't lie. And again, this is not to say that 5 electromagnetics is better than 2 or 1 or none for that matter. But when we're talking about 2 people who don't actually know what's going on, who are not aware of their chemistry together, they just know that it feels good. That really shows us that chemistry doesn't lie. All right, guys, I think that's a really good place to wrap it up. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Please also comment below if you have any questions or if you have a famous couple you'd like for me to take a look at. You can also follow me on Instagram at HDbyZ and find me on my website. The link will be in the show notes below. There you can see I offer human design readings, a relationship mentorship program, and a community for conscious women called the Beehive. Until next time, ciao for now.